Welcome to the video tutorial on the weather component. In this tutorial, I'm going to demonstrate how to configure the weather component using JSON items so you can create a custom 6-day weather forecast as well as create the current weather. I'm also going to demonstrate how to use the weather templates so you can really get up and running in no time. So with that, let's begin. The first thing we'll do is we'll switch over here to scenes. Let's go ahead and create a new scene using the wizard, and we're just going to call this our weather scene. Click on next. Here we want to be able to assign our weather scene to an actual remote player, so we'll make sure that it is assignable. Click on next and set our default 1920 by 1080. Next, and just go ahead and finish. So let's go and switch back real quick and confirm our properties. So you can see the weather scene was created for us. It has 0 items. This is just the ID. It is player assignable, so it has a type of player. And if we go to players just to kind of demonstrate the same thing, you'll see that if I select one or more of my players, I'm able to assign it to the weather scene that I just created. So my particular player, in this case test 1, my remote signage player, is able to play my weather scene because it is player assignable. Go back to our scene. So how do we actually create the weather itself? So there's different ways of doing that. So let's switch back into our weather scene. And obviously you notice that right now it's empty. So we can add anything we want here. We can add content, playlist, images, and build our scene like we normally do. So if I go ahead and just pick a label, or if I use Alt-T to add multiple labels, and let's just organize them really quick. So this is just a normal scene, nothing special about it. So the first thing I want to do is I want to switch over to components, and this time what I want to do is I want to pick the weather player. The weather player will essentially allow me to play the weather content in this particular area. Now notice right now it says will only display in the signage player when it's deployed. So as of this current release, you can't really preview it, it's coming soon. But no worries, when you actually deploy it with our dedicated signage player for Windows or Android or whatnot, it will play everything according to how you configure it. You just can't preview it in this current release, but this will be coming soon. So I want my weather player to play in this particular area, let's say. And notice if I go to its properties, it has the zip code, which you can change or just put in the address. You can set the temperature unit. But most importantly, what you want to do is select the particular scene that it's going to play, the weather items. And I'll demonstrate that in just a second. Of course, you can also set the style for the icons of the weather. So how do you create the most important thing, which is going to be the weather scene items? So there's multiple ways of doing that. So let's go ahead and demonstrate a few ways of doing this. So the easiest way is simply to switch back to our scenes, and notice that right now I'm under scenes, and I can click on the star right here under the scenes module. And if I switch over here, or rather type weather, I can see that the weather is highlighted right here. So I can select a pre-existing configuration. So let's go ahead and select something simple. We can preview it. We'll call it cool weather. So you'll notice that if I select any one of these items, this is what we call JSON item, which is a configurable item. I can set the properties. So in this case, I can set the current icon. I can set if I want this particular item to be, for example, several days in the back, whether I want it to be a label, minimum temperature, maximum temperature. So you have all the properties right here. And of course, once you select a property, it will play the configuration that you've selected. So let's go ahead and switch back to the scene that we've created earlier, the weather scene. Select our weather player and simply bind it directly to the scene that we've imported, the cool weather. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it, if you wanted to do a kind of a shortcut, what you can do is you can simply select the scenes. Let's go and type weather again, just to see the weather. You see the cool weather scene that we've created, and you can simply drag and drop it, and it would automatically create it for you. So essentially these two objects are identical. It already bound the weather scene. So you don't really have to do the long process of adding a player and then binding it to the scene. You can simply drag the weather item scene directly. One more important thing I want to show you is that if I go ahead and filter by weather, you'll notice that so now these are the two particular scenes that we're interested in. So we got the weather scene, which is the main scene that has the components, and it has a type of player. We also have another scene right here called cool weather, and this particular scene has a type of JSON weather. So in the JSON weather, you can only add JSON weather items, and the player is actually where you would play the JSON weather. So just to demonstrate this a little bit more, if I go into the JSON weather, you'll notice that if I go to a component, let's say I want to add one more item right here. So if I go and select my JSON item and add it, you will notice that because this particular scene is of type weather, and you can confirm that right here with this icon, if I click on it, you'll see it has a weather type. Anytime I drag a JSON item over to it, I will be able to configure it with all the properties for the weather. It's really that simple. So there's nothing special about importing a scene. We just kind of did the work for you and created just nice graphics for you, but there's nothing special. You can create your own weather scenes. So to demonstrate that, going back into our weather scene, you'll notice that if I go back to this guy and assign it to any other scene that's available in my platform, I can simply modify it. So let's select the zebra one and we'll directly jump into it. This is my zebra scene, and notice that these are just JSON items and they sit under this particular type of scene called weather. And if I go to component and select JSON item, I can go ahead and configure this any way I like. So to wrap things up, basically what I'm trying to say is that you can import pre-existing scenes from our system, or you can create your own directly going through the wizard. And we'll call this our scene items 2. You will simply go over here, you will select this to be a weather type scene. So you're indicating this will be a weather type scene. Select how you want the layout to be. You see it already set a weather type scene for me. Has the different items which I can map to the temperature and the icon and everything that I want to map. And go back to my main scene right here. So as you can see, we have our weather scene, our cool weather, but we also have the one we just created the second, which is the scene items 2, which also has a JSON weather type. So if we go back to our weather scene, which is of type player, so we can assign this scene to our remote signage player, and we go over here to the content and to scenes, go all the way to the back, find the one we just created a second ago, drag and drop, and sure enough, it's also bound to our scene items, and we can set the properties. The last thing I wanted to do is I just wanted to show you this in action. So in this case, we need to actually go to the remote signage player. So here is my remote signage player. You can see that it's on and it's green, and I've assigned it to the weather scene that we've created earlier. And so let's go and do a remote snapshot, and we can see that it's playing the weather. And if I drag over the actual player that's running, you can see it's running my 5-day forecast, the labels that I've added, and everything is working as it should, as well as the second weather on the bottom. So configuring the weather is very simple. There's different ways of doing it. If you have any questions, please again let us know, and have a good one. Thanks.